It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, April 18th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that thought the season finale had everything. It was the best, worst, dumbest, most hilarious game by far of the season.
And this whole season was a mind bleep, if you know what I mean.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And to keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, I think that you did not get the spirit of this game because it was one of the most fun games that we've had all season long. And I think it was fun because the entire fandom, at least the little sliver that I was witnessing on Blue Sky, was united in the desire to lose this game.
Well, that's
But
the
at
whole
the
thing, but that's why it wasn't fun, because people were like texting me, "Why are they challenging? Why are they doing this?" And it's like,
Oh, but
so
it made it funnier. That's the
I
whole
don't
thing.
know.
It was just like every little step in this game was the most Flyers way to lose this game in regulation. It was all's well that ends well. They lost in regulation. The Flyers have secured the fourth spot in the draft lottery odds. So the worst the Flyers will pick with that top pick is sixth overall. That was
Right.
the goal that we all had going into this game. We achieved that goal. The roller coaster ride it took to get there, with them trying to get Matvei Michkov a hat trick, trying to get Tyson Foerster that 25th goal of the season, having a good debut for Devin Kaplan. All of that kind of also took place, except for the hat trick, obviously. But Michkov got two, and he got the rookie goal lead. So he has the most goals by a rookie this season in the NHL. That's fantastic for him.
Hmm?
I just feel like we came out of this game the most winning losers that we possibly could have.
Okay, I'll give you that. Although I thought that goal went in. By the way, I thought they got ripped off of a goal. To be
No,
honest,
it was on the line, Russ. It
no,
was
it
on
it
that
wasn't. It hit his
line.
pad, and then it went on the line, and his pad was way over, way more than a puck. But anyhow, it's fine. Like this,
Yeah,
that
that goal had to get reviewed. Then we had the goaltender interference challenge. To your point, we're
Reimer
all
got cut on
excited.
the neck.
Brad, oh my god! Thank God he's okay. Thank
I
God that
know.
official is okay too. That's what I'm
Oh no,
saying.
the
This
official gets
game
hit with
had
a shot.
literally
It was
everything.
just too much. It was too much for game 82. It was kind of like, I don't know, like, maybe you go on a tour of roller coasters, and the last one, you're at the worst roller coaster. You're like at, the Cedar Point one, where I didn't even go on that roller coaster. I was just afraid of it in Ohio. And maybe it was like that. And I don't know. It just it was too much.
I think if you took it in the spirit in which we were trying to intend it, it it was a joyous occasion for all. But I just think that, given how this season went and all the ups and downs of it, to at least end on a united front this way, and the fan base, I think, was like pretty, solidified in what
Yeah, I
was
think so.
happening and what they wanted to happen, right?
I think the fans were. I don't think the team's happy. Like that's the
Well,
other part of this. They're
right,
not
but
happy.
I do think that there were large stretches of that game where defense was optional on both sides,
Yeah,
first
no
off, and
question.
And I think that was okay. I think that made it fun for them in a lot of ways because you
Okay.
could see exactly what they were doing, at least the
Hmm.
Flyers, from setting up offensive plays. The Sabres, I think, took a nap for about part of the second period and a good chunk of the third period
Hmm.
there. So, that was kind of unfortunate because we really thought that they were going to work much harder to try and get Lindy Ruff that 900th win, which he got, and then also to get Reimer a win in what was likely going to be his last NHL game. I know
Oh,
all
no,
the
no, 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 no way.
no,
They're going to re-sign him. You watch.
you
They are
think
going to re-sign him. Yes. That's my prediction.
on the possibility that it was his last
Right.
game, they
There you go.
wanted to win it for him. But I just thought there was so many reasons for the Sabres to want to win, and then at some point they just stopped wanting to win. And then having the Flyers, you get that late power play, and everybody's like, "Oh, no, like, we need this power play to fail," and
Right.
that we needed that when that has been the problem, the big P problem all season long was just deliciously ironic.
Okay. Yeah. There's that. I mean, are we going to talk about the goaltending, or are we just going to be like, don't worry about it?
No.
All right.
Does it matter? I mean, it does matter, in the sense of what is the next step with Kolosov, right?
Right.
I
Because it
think
was weird. Like, Fedotov was
Mhm.
supposed to be the guy in net, then he
Yeah.
wasn't. And then Kolosov had a couple of good saves, but not a good game. So I don't know what to make of all that either.
No idea, but hopefully locker cleanout will help shed some light on that, and
Maybe.
we'll get some information from
Probably
Danny
on day
Briere
two. Probably not
on
on,
day
yeah,
2.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the topics that Danny Briere will talk about on Saturday, and we'll recap that on Monday's show. I do also, in all seriousness, want to talk about Devin Kaplan because I thought
Mhm.
he had a really good day. It looked like he was just soaking it all in. The fact that he
Yeah.
wore number 12, I think was kind of cool, as they mentioned on the broadcast, like people haven't worn that number
Yeah.
since Michael Raffle, who has a special place in my heart.
Yeah. I like Raffles
As
player. He's a good guy.
and my family has a long-standing tradition of buying the jerseys of Flyers who wear the number 12. So we have a
Okay.
Tim Kerr in the family, we have a Simone Gagne in the family, and we have a Michael Raffle in the family. So if he sticks with that number, I will absolutely be getting one of his jerseys, but going to be down the road a little bit because he'll probably end
Sure.
up in Lehigh for a little while
No, he
next
will. I
season.
mean,
But
he was
yeah,
marginal, but at least he got his game in. We know he was on the ice for that first goal. That was a problem, but it's fine. Whatever.
yeah. But he also had some good offensive plays. I think he had some good positioning a little bit here and there, and I felt like he was really strong on the forecheck. I think that kind of
Yeah, that's a
dovetails
good
from
part of his
his game
game.
at
Sure.
BU, right?
Yeah, that's a good part of his game. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that aspect of it was noticeable, so that's good. So I really hope he had a good day and,
I'm sure he did.
enjoyed his time, with his family and, everybody being
I mean,
there,
as
which
good a
is
day as you could have in
really
Buffalo.
cool. Yes, I suppose. I won't tell my cousins you said that.
I'm
Who live
there at least once or twice a year, so whatever.
Congrats to Tyson Foerster for getting to
Yeah, that was
25
good.
goals. It's a really good step for him this season, and we'll continue to talk more about him and goals for next year as well as for everybody else. And we also have like a lot of things to do now that it's the off season, and we have lots of questions. And the first one is going to start off with who is the coach going to be. We're going to get into all of that coming up next.
Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire Stick TV 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your pair of controllers, subscribe, or sign on into the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports, College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed. As easily as it is to stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you have access to more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. You could also play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your kids' games at wherever you want and plug in. Head to Amazon.com, Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation.
All right, the Flyers season may be over, but ours is kind of just beginning in a lot of ways here. The off season will begin. So on Monday's show, we are going to talk about locker cleanout day and any fallout news that we get from the end of the Flyer season if they decide to make any staffing changes over the weekend. It should be an interesting couple of days. Plus, we'll have our nemesis of the week as we do each and every Monday. Now, one of the top priorities for the Flyers this offseason will obviously be getting a new head coach. But is that the first priority, do you think, Russ?
It is, because you have to basically do the head coach first and then make sure the head coach is on par with you for the other things you're going to do and then what he wants to do. Because the problem is, even though we have ideas and opinions about different things, you have to let that person's input count, and you also don't know what else is out there. So you can't just like relieve people if you don't know that there's other people you could get. So these are all the complications of that.
Right. There's so many different options and considerations for that. I do think it is the first priority for this team because, like you said, everything else that they're doing this offseason, I think maybe aside from drafting to some extent, is part of the coaching system that is
Right.
going to be put in place for this team. And so I think that priority one in this search for a new coach is to get that job description together first off. I mean, we do know that we want somebody with a good track record in winning, but also player development and to be able to teach the young players in an effective way that's maybe different than what Torts did.
Right. And some coaches will want to do that. Some coaches might not want to do that. Some might be new at one of those things. Like it's,
Right.
what they're asking for or what they're looking for is not what every NHL coach is kind of like wanting to do. And that does make the list a little shorter than it normally would.
Yeah, I think there's some opportunities for guys who wanna mold something into their own
Sure.
versus guys that wanna come in and maybe be raring to go and go for a championship, right? So I think it's a different style and a different place in careers, and so all of that will affect the Flyers' job search. I think it'll be interesting to see how this process is affected by the Phantoms postseason
Hmm.
because I think that they're gonna have to holistically look at everything, right? So
Yes.
who else are they gonna fire? I mean, Rocky Thompson, I mean, God bless him, but he should be on that list, you know?
Yeah, no
And
doubt. But like, I'll give you like a weird thing. Like, what if they say, yeah, Rocky's terrible at the power play? We all agree, but this new coach would want him as an assistant. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, but you don't know. So that's where you
right.
have to sort of like wait on that. That's why you may not hear that even right away. You might hear it right away, but you
Right.
might not.
Exactly. That I think that all indications would be that he wouldn't be back, but they can't officially say anything until the new head coach is hired. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it'll probably be similar with Lappy because there may
Hmm.
be, hopefully, the way we've been talking about it, of course, a decision to kind of holistically look at everything soup to nuts from a coaching perspective with the organization. And I would say the only people that I would want to keep their jobs 100%, no question, are the video coaches because very clearly they are good at
Right.
their
Yeah,
jobs,
they may be
right?
the best in the league. That may be the one thing they have the
I
best in the
know.
league at.
I know. So everybody else is fair game, including Kim
Yes.
Dillabaugh, goaltending,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
everything
Yeah.
soup to nuts here. Now, the other thing is we have to wait and see what other teams do, to your point.
Mhm.
Who else is getting fired, and what other head coaching opportunities are going to be available, and where's the competition? And, are we looking at assistants out there? Are we looking at former head coaches? Are we looking at college coaches? Are we looking at AHL coaches? Like, we got to cast a wide net here to find
Mhm.
the right person for this job.
Yeah, and so they won't even give you that great of a clue probably for another 4 or 5 days
Right.
because, there's like, let's just say we use Rick Tocchet. Well, we haven't heard anything yet out of Vancouver. And if he happens to be their number one choice, they might wait a while to say
Mhm.
something because it's like, well, all of a sudden, if they could Canucks say one day, like let's say next Monday, hey, Rick Tockett's coming back. Okay, well then that changes the Flyers search and maybe gives Brad a better chance at getting the job too. So it's like, this is what happens out there. That's part of it.
Right, and I think the other factor there is when we talk about existing AHL head coaches or
Right.
existing NHL assistant coaches, some of them may be in the playoffs.
Right.
And so we have to wait until either their team is eliminated or the playoffs are over. If they're at the top of the Flyers list, we don't know that at
Right.
this moment, right? And I think those kind of candidates are very important to include because you want somebody with a track record of success who's maybe hungry to take that next step in their coaching career, and a top NHL assistant coach is at the top of that kind of coaching list, right?
Right. No doubt about it. And then even if they want a college coach, uh, again, that's something where it's like, again, if I bring up the name David Carl, well, the complication with David Carl, aside from anything else, is he has 2 years on a contract. So
Yeah,
does that mean Comcast has to pay for 2 years of his contract? Because I don't know if Denver is going to just let him out of it. They
right.
may not. Usually college coaches don't have outs like that, but he might because he's really good. But so there has to be some sort of agreement there, or he has to have an out. So there's a lot of complications that take a while to have a decision like this. I know fans are going to want this stuff quickly, and you just want kind of like this bloodbath, but you have to be tactical about it. You got to
Yep.
have all your bases covered.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, I wanna set a deadline for this, right? Like, it makes sense to want to have a deadline for it, whether it's, May 15th, whether it's 2 weeks before the draft, like, whatever it is in your head about when they should have a head coach by, will be affected by all these other factors that we've talked about, but we also need to consider who's planning the off season for this team, and can you leave Bradshaw hanging? And, who's doing exit interviews with the players to say, here's what you need to be working on this summer. Here's your plan for how you're going to work out or skills what we want you to improve on. And here's the support we're going to get for you in order to accomplish that. Normally, like a head coach and a player development person would spearhead those efforts. But when you don't have a head coach, like, that makes it very difficult. So I feel like I don't want the players to rush the head coaching decision because of these things, but we also need these things.
Yeah. So first thing is that they're going to use Brad and everybody else that they've been using in the past for the exit. They're not going to hold the guys up. Like the guys that go on Friday, they'll be gone by Saturday. Like that's just the way it's going to be. So you have to just use who you have. It's in sales, it's called the SWAT method, and that's just sell whatever you have available today, right? Sell whatever
Yeah.
you have today, and it's going to be the same thing. Use who you have today, and that's who they'll use. As far as the other stuff, it's like Brad will be around for a while. I don't imagine they're going to dismiss him because there's that chance that he might even just come back in in the job that he has. So Brad's going to be on ice for a while, and I think he knows that. He may know that he's got some sort of position next year, which would be fine. Then he wouldn't mind doing that. And so that's something where if you have a coach before the draft, that's great. But a coach is just symbolic at the draft. So really, you don't have to have a coach by the draft. You have to have a
Right.
coach before free agency, though. You do.
You do. And you also have to have a coach for dev camp, I think.
Yeah.
That's that's the thing, is that I think there has to be somebody spearheading what's going on at
But
development
technically, the
camp.
coach isn't in charge of dev camp, and it's always somebody else, and it's never the coach. So it shouldn't slip to that, but you could still get by with that. But it's the free agency part that it's like, all right, like
Yeah.
Danny is in charge of building the team, but you do want to build the team that your next coach wants. Like that part's important.
Well, and who's going to sign without knowing who their coach is going to be? Like nobody,
Yeah, well,
right?
that's another good point too.
All right. Well, there's a lot of other factors to talk about, and how a coach and the hiring of a coach affects how the team identify their needs and their strategy to get there, and the partnership with Danny Briere. We're going to talk about that and our playoff predictions coming up next. There is nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last minute baseball showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NHL playoff matchup. But finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. Game Time makes scoring last minute tickets easier than ever, and prices actually drop as the event gets closer. And with their all in pricing, you see the total cost upfront, no surprises at checkout. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and my personal favorite, theater tickets. With seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so continuing our what's next for the Flyers conversation here. I think this off-season plan for each of the players is going to be an important element of all of that. And you talked about Bradshaw staying on and helping guide that process a little bit. And I know we have talked about, guys, especially that we want them to focus on this off season. And as far as shooting goes, that's Owen Tippett and Tyson Foerster, right?
Yep. Yep. Those are the two guys. Those are the main. I guess we could put Cam York in there too.
Yeah, well, I put everything next to Cam York in my list because he has a lot to work on.
He
I think
does.
confidence though, and that's where I wonder what's the best strategy for him? Like, is it to hole up and just work with trainers and skills coaches and maybe work with some buddies in the off season in
He'll definitely
California?
skate with the California guys, probably like
Yeah.
California US guys he knows. So he'll do that. And then he'll probably go to some other advisor that he has and work with them. And then he'll get back to the Flyers. And if the Flyers trade him, then he won't have to worry about it. If they don't, then it's all good.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Jamie Drysdale has some similar issues to work on, but I think it's a slightly less concerning list than Cam York's for sure. But nonetheless, he obviously has a lot to work on with his 5-on-5 play, especially.
Yeah, that's gotten better. But his just overall point total and the way he maybe attacks the offensive zone and the way he does it on the power play. Now, some of that's team oriented with the power play, but even 5-on-5, I don't think he attacks the offensive zone the way he used to. And I think he has to work on that. I think teams are able to there's a thing like where in basketball, if you're a right-hander and you get someone to go left, a lot of times they're a little weaker going to their left side, using their left hand. It's the same in hockey. Everybody's got a favorite side they like to go to. Everybody doesn't. And I feel like if you push Drysdale to the left, he seems less effective than when he's coming in. He seems to come in from the right a lot. I don't have any stats to back this up. This is just eye test.
Yeah, well, we're going to dig into everybody's season and what they need to work on as we get into the off season. But at a high level, these are the major things that with specific guys that we've identified over the course of the season. I think the other big thing where the coach is going to be a part of it, but not necessarily leading it, is identify the team needs and the strategy to get there. Obviously, that is Danny Briere's job, right?
Yes.
But as we've seen, it seems like he likes to work in partnership with a head coach, and that's what appealed to him about working with John Tortorella. Now, maybe he feels like he's learned his lesson and wants to be more in charge and have the coach have less to do with that this time around. To be determined, I
I guess
think.
it depends on the coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll be part of it too. And, Brier's going to just have to think about that aspect of it in the hiring process, for himself and Keith Jones will be part of that as well.
Right. The thing about, let's say, the hiring process, I think it's good to have like a quorum and all of that at the beginning. But I think there's a point where Danny has to push everybody else out of the room and decide by
Agreed.
himself for a while. And I'm not sure that that fully happens. And I think that needs to happen more on a lot of decisions.
I absolutely agree with you there. And I think whether it's this off season or at some point during the season next year, I think, he's talked about a triumvirate in the past that they've had, like that's got to go out the window.
I
And
agree.
he's got to be more of a buck stops here kind of GM.
Yes.
And I think, that affects the draft and, scouting and all of that.
Everything. I mean, the GM is the final say so. Like, even at the draft table, they could say whoever they want, and he could start up a different conversation. Like, well, what about this guy? What about that? What about that? Let's debate this for a
Yeah.
while. Like, yeah, it's up to
I
him.
mean, my preference would be for Keith Jones to have less to do with the draft, but
Mhm.
that's just me
Well, I
at
mean,
the
he really, the
moment.
president really shouldn't have anything to do with the draft.
I know. But I understand his playing background and his, analyst
It's okay to
background.
hear whatever somebody has to say,
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean that that should go any further.
correct. I think, just take it under consideration,
Right. That's it.
but let it go from there. I think, we know that the 1C and the top defenseman needs are there. And I think the other big project that I'm not sure the coach will have a lot to do with, but maybe if they end up hiring a different goalie coach is solving this goaltending problem.
Yeah,
That's like a huge issue
that
this
may be the
offseason.
number one, because like from a solvable standpoint, they're not going to be able to solve 1C and whoever their top defenseman is. I mean, Travis Sanheim is the de facto, but they're not going to be
Right.
able to solve both of those in the offseason. They may not even be able to solve the goaltending issue really in the offseason, but they have to have a different plan for it. And so, like, we may not see it. We may not see it because there may not be anybody available in trade for agency or trade. But they have to, decide going into this season, since everybody's on a 1-year deal, what are they going to do in 2 years for this goaltending position? And I think that starts with what you're going to do next year, deciding who the backup is. So in other words, what I'm basically saying is probably one of the Russians will end up going. Because I don't know if both or either will report full-time to Lehigh. It just seems like that may not happen. So, and if that's the case, then you have to start making those decisions quicker.
Yep, absolutely. But that I do not envy any of them in having to deal with this situation. It's
No,
difficult. And I don't know that there's really blame to be put on anybody. It's
no, I
just
mean, at this point, it's blameless.
it's
It's just,
just
you just got to
yeah,
do whatever it has to
you just
be.
got to solve it.
You have to solve it.
Yeah, which again, it's tough, but that's why they get paid to be GMs. and
Yeah, it's
and
a hard,
that's part of the
job.
gig.
And I think the Flyers and Danny have gone out of their way to sort of please players and agents and all these things. And after a while, you just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We're going to do a quick playoff prediction rundown here. The playoffs start Saturday with the first two series on tap are the Blues versus the Jets and the Avs versus the Stars, who are a little nervous because Jason Robertson is hurt right now.
Yeah.
But that's a big deal. But who you got in those two series?
So for Jets versus the Blues, I've got the Jets in 5. I think people are a little worried maybe about Connor Hellebuyck in the playoffs. I don't worry as much. I think this team is so good and so well-rounded that even though this Blues team has looked good to get into the playoffs for the most part, a little hiccupy down the end. I just don't think they're going to stand up.
Yeah, and they're hiccupy against top teams, and the Jets
Yeah.
are one of those top teams, obviously.
Yeah.
So I agree. Jets in 5. Stars versus Avs to me is kind of a toss-up. So I'm gonna say Avs in 7, but I don't feel confident about that pick at all.
I have Avs in 7. I feel more confident now with Landeskog back, not because I know what he's going to give them on the ice. I just know what he's going to
It's
give them
inspiring.
mentally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Vegas versus Wild. I'm going to say Vegas in 6.
I'm going to say Vegas in 5. I think, the Wild are good. I think their goaltending's been maybe better than what I expected. But Vegas just keeps rolling along, man. Like, we just forget about them. We stop watching them after a while. They're like on autopilot, and somebody's going to have to really change that to change my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Once again, Kings versus Oilers. We cannot get rid of this series to
This
save
is
our
like
lives.
like whatever movie, Jaws 5. I don't know how many
I
they
know.
got. Like,
I
I don't
know.
know, man.
Final Destination, more like.
Right. You almost hope that this is the final destination for this
Oh,
one.
please.
I'm going to go Kings in 7. I have not been bullish on the Kings all year, but I mean, Darcy Kemper has done better than I thought he would. I just voted for him the All-Star team, the third best goalie, and like he was just edged out Logan Thompson in that, I think. So I got to go Kings in 7. We'll see. I don't feel confident about this one at all.
No, I mean, my gut said Kings in 6 just because I feel like this is the year that the Oilers just like can't get it together in the playoffs in any way. But especially after last year and kind of some of the upheaval this year, and I just feel like the Kings are primed to win this series. But it could be 6 or 7. I'm
Yeah.
just going to go with 6 to be different. But Leafs versus Sens. Absolutely, the Leafs in 6.
Yeah, I've got the Leafs in 6 too. I mean, if we had faith in the Leafs regular season, we would say it's a sweep. But none of us had that kind
No.
of faith in the Leafs in the postseason. That's what that's telling to me. But anyhow,
Well,
Leafs
and the
in 6.
Sens have won improbable games all
They have.
season.
They
So
have.
that's why I give them 2 games in this series for sure. The Battle of Florida, I think Tampa. I think Florida's kind of uneven at best right now.
Tampa in 7. I think, Vasilevsky has bounced back. Hedman's still great.
Mhm.
Hagel has done way better than I thought he would ever do there.
Yep.
So yeah.
I'd say in 6, but if it was 7, okay, I get that too.
Right.
Caps, I would say in 5 over the Habs.
Yeah, I think 5 is fair. I was thinking, could it be a sweep? Sometimes there's a sweep, but I'll go 5.
And then Canes versus Devils, man, this is the series that I
I
want
know.
both teams to lose more than any of the other series. Like there's no winners in a Canes versus Devils series. I'm gonna say Devils in 6 because the Canes just don't seem right at the moment.
I was watching the Canes yesterday, but they sat a lot of players. But
They
still,
did.
I don't know. Like Rod Brindamore is terribly consistent, but he's also the team is terribly inconsistent at times in the playoffs. And it's a weird thing because they'll just keep putting out that same lineup, right? Those go, 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 go. I don't know. I mean, Dougie Hamilton back for the Devils is a big deal. So yeah, I'll go Devils in 7. Just I know people are gonna be like, well, they're not gonna win that one. They might. Who on the road? I just think weird things are gonna happen in that series. I just do.
I do too. I absolutely nobody's gonna want to win that series.
It
That
may
is
be
my
one of those
prediction.
series where we're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, that is my prediction there. And then any cup winner prediction, or
Not
are you a
yet.
round by round guy?
I'd like to be a round by round guy. I'm not there yet.
All right, that is absolutely fair. I am a round by round person as well.
Other than the cup is going to be there and it's the best trophy in sports and you could drink out of it, which is a reason why, and all those good things.
Yep. Agreed. All right, that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back on Monday, of course, to talk locker cleanout, any staff changes that may or may not have occurred, and so much more. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on at RMiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. It's every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale with NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.